Hello then, welcome to a brand new video. This is Hub Beyond Numbers, where we learn maths the easy way. Now in this lesson, we are looking at perpendicular lines on the number line. By the end of this lesson, you'll be able to recognize the condition for two lines to be perpendicular. And then you can also be able to find the equation of a line perpendicular to a given line and passing through a point. So without much ado, let's quickly look into it. So graphically, when we say two lines are perpendicular, you see, so like with these two lines I have here, this blue and then the yellow one or gold one, when we say they are perpendicular, it means they meet each other at an angle of what? 90 degrees. So with these two lines we have, you see, if I align them this way, you can clearly see that they are meeting at an angle of 90 degrees. It doesn't matter their orientation. You see, so far as the two lines are meeting at 90 degrees, then we can say they are what? Perpendicular. You see. Now, for these perpendicular lines, they have a nice and interesting property that help us to solve one if given the other. The property is that for two lines, L1 here, which is equal to y, where y is equal to m1x plus c1, and then for L2, whose equation is this? If we are saying that they are perpendicular, if L1 is perpendicular to L2, then it implies that the product of their gradient, that is M1 times M2, is equal to -1. You see, the product of their gradient is equal to -1. Some can also say that M1 is equal to -1 over what? M2. In other words, the gradient of one is the negative reciprocal of the other. You see, so you can also say that M2 is equal to the negative of what? M1 reciprocal. So you can use any of these three principles. It's actually the same thing. That is, for this, you just want to what? Make M1, M2 the subject. For this, you are making just M1 the subject, and then this just M2 the subject. So any that you think you can easily remember is fine. The first one says the product of the two gradients is equal to what? -1. And for the second one, the gradient of one is the negative reciprocal of the other. Now let's see how we can apply this to answer some questions. So for this first question here, it says we have to find the equation of a line that is perpendicular. This is the most important thing we need to answer. So perpendicular to y is equal to 2x plus 3, and it passes through this point over here. Now we know if we want to find the equation of a line, at least at this point, we need one point on the line and then the gradient. At this point now, we have a point on the line. But do we have the gradient? That is what we want to find out. So our solution. Now, from the question, we've been given an equation of a line. And that equation is y is equal to 2x plus 3. For the equation we've been asked to solve for, we are being told that it is perpendicular to this over here. You see? So if it is really perpendicular to this we have over here, then it means for the equation we want to solve, that this is passing through it. Its gradient is the negative reciprocal of this. You see? So we know that the gradient of this one here, m, is equal to what? 2. So we should let the gradient of what we want be m1. We should let the perpendicular gradient be m1. And we know that since they are perpendicular, the product of their gradient is what? -1. That is, if we multiply m by m1, we should get -1. So doing our substitution or doing our change of subject, we have what? M, which we know to be equal to 2. So 2 times m1 is equal to -1. And making our M1, the subject, means we would have to divide both sides by 2. This 2 here cancels out this 2. So we have our M1 being equal to what? -1 over 2. So with this now, we can say we have our gradient and we have our point. You see, then we can go forward towards solve for the equation of the line. So with gradient now being m is equal to -1 over 2, and then the point, which is 1, 4, we go forward towards solve for our equation. So we say y minus y1 is equal to our m into bracket x minus x1. Substituting, we have our y minus y1. This here is our y1. So minus 4 is equal to the gradient, which in this case is now -1 over 2. Then we have our x minus 1 from here. Simplifying further, we have our y, which is equal to, or y minus 4, which is equal to -1 over 2x. That is, this times our x. And then negative times negative, giving us what? Positive. Half times 1. That gives us a 1 over 2. Making y the subject, we have our y being equal to -1 over 2x plus 1 over 2, then plus our 4. Simplifying further, you are then going to get your y to be equal to -1 over 2x. Half plus 4 gives us 4 whole number 1 over 2, which is equal to what? 9 over 2. This here is the equation of the line. That is what? Perpendicular to this equation, but passes through this point over here. Let's quickly brush through to see what we've actually done. The question was, find the equation of the line. It is perpendicular toward this over here. And we are saying if two lines are perpendicular, then the gradient of one is the negative reciprocal of the other, or the product of their gradient is equal to -1. So if you look carefully, this gradient here is 2. So the gradient of the next one will be negative. Then we reciprocate the 2. That becomes 1 over 2. Or if you want to solve, they can just go straight forward and say, okay, let's let the perpendicular gradient be what? Negative, be m1 over here. You see, then it means their product is -1. And if their product is -1, making my m1 the subject, I'm going to get -1 over 2. If I'm able to do that now, I come here and say, I have my gradient and I have my point. So using the slope point equation, I'll then solve forward my equation of my line. Let's take one last example, and then maybe if you do not understand, you would get it better. So for this second question here, it says you have to find the equation of the line that is perpendicular to this here, and then it passes through this point over here. Let's look at how we can go about it. So our solution. Now, the equation of the line we've been given is what? Y is equal to -3x plus 1. So the given line is y is equal to what? -3x plus 1. So we can then say that the gradient of the given line is -3. So gradient of the given line is -3. And we are saying the gradient of the perpendicular line is the negative reciprocal. Negative reciprocal. So we come and say our new gradient is then going to be the negative. You see, so negative, we've written the negative there. Then for -3, its reciprocal will be -1 over 3. You see, take note, we first need our negative. So this is the negative. Then the reciprocal of any number. So if you have 3, its reciprocal is 1 over 3. If you have -3, its reciprocal is -1 over 3. You see, so you still attach its sign to it over there. So the negative reciprocal, that is negative what? negative 1 over 3. You see, and simplifying further, you are going to get negative times negative, giving you positive. So that is 1 over 3 over here. You see, so this is very simple. And with this now, we have gotten the gradient of the line we want, and we have one of its points over here. See, so as I have said, just get the gradient and get your point, and you are good to go. So using our point slope equation, which is y minus y1, which is equal to m into bracket x minus x1. We do our substitution. So we have y minus, our y1 is the y value over here. So y minus negative 2 is equal to our m, which we have solved that to be 1 over 3. Then into bracket our x minus 0. You see, so since it is minus 0, it is not going to do anything. X minus 0 is still x. Now making our y the subject, to simplify first. So we have y plus 2, which is equal to 1/3 of x. And finally making y the subject, we have y, which is equal to the 1/3 of x. Then this positive 2 moves to the other side to give us a negative 2. And this now becomes the equation of our line. So that is it for this particular lesson. And I do hope that you have been able to understand what we've been trying to learn. All we are saying is, for two lines that are perpendicular, we can say that they meet at an angle of 90 degrees. You see, that is if you want to represent them graphically. So these two lines meet at an angle of 90 degrees. But when it comes to calculation wise, then we know that the product of their gradient is -1, or the gradient of one is the negative reciprocal of the other. And that gives us what? These two equations over here. This one here, and then these two. With these two, you can always use them to approach questions and solve. So if you have a perpendicular line, and then if you have an equation of a line, and you have a point which is in another line that is perpendicular to this here, all you do is to find the gradient of the other line. Then you use this point you've been given to solve, just as we've done in here. And same applies to this question over here. As usual, I'll leave some exercises for you to try on your own. So here you have the two questions, the two set of questions you can try your hands on. This is How Beyond Numbers, where we learn maths the easy way. If there's any issue of concern, you can always let me know at the comment section, and then I'll address that for you. If this is your first time on this channel, you can always choose to subscribe. That is, if you so do wish. So anytime I release a video on a lesson, you'll be notified to study along. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for our next session. Bye for now, and have a blessed day.